What's going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here with me. I got Satori. Say what's up.
What's up?
And thank you for that. Today we have a pretty cool matchup. We're doing a Chunin exam free for all. I did a video on this with the Akatsuki. That was obviously the first type of video I did with that type of topic. Took a lot of feedback and critique people gave me in terms of how to approach that matchup in the comments. So, I'll kind of be adding that into this discussion. So with that being said, look for a similar type of video here. Now, for the sake of discussion, I'm going to kind of outline what we're looking at here. I'm essentially going to be taking everybody after the preliminaries, but I'm also going to be throwing in Dosu, as Dosu was supposed to originally fight in the next stage of the Chunin exams. It's just unfortunate that he had to jump Gaara. And I'm also going to throw in Rock Lee, as I think Rock Lee, kind of got hoed from his first matchup, and I think it would be interesting to have him here. So, I'll be throwing those two in, and listen, I would love to throw in more characters, but I'm going to let me outline this. For the matchup in the Battle Royale, we have Naruto, Sasuke, Neji, Rock Lee, Gaara, Tamari, Kankuro, Dosu, Shino, and Shikamaru. That's already 10 fighters. If I had any more,
that's a lot.
It's too much. It's too much. So, I wanted to throw in Kiba. I wanted to throw in another couple of people, but it just didn't work out for the sake of the video. And I apologize for that for anybody who wants to see those people. But these are the individuals who I'll keep on. I also think these individuals do stand, I don't want to say a tier above at their peers, because that's not necessarily fair, but they are generally considered like the top echelon of the Chunin exam. So I think it is more interesting of a discussion. But that being said, we're going to basically be throwing these 10 fighters into the Chunin exam arena on the old hit and miss style, where they're, you had to fight your class to the death. How Zabuza graduated from his class. So we'll be kind of doing something to that amount. So we'll be kind of looking at that. With that being said, like, subscribe if you're new here, enjoy the type of content, all that good stuff. Subscribe to Satori if you haven't. Definitely, go over there and do that. He makes great stuff. And let's get into the video. And so the way we were kind of discussing it. We discussed this literally for over an hour and a half, before we went into the video, because it was that crazy. We see this fight going into kind of a divergence where you have two main groups of beef, just due to the characters and their motivations, right? So you have pretty much it's kind of interesting, but you have Lee and Naruto who wants to fight Neji. You have Gaara who wants to fight Sasuke. Sasuke wants to fight Lee, Neji, Gaara, and Naruto. Dosu wants to fight Sasuke and Gaara, but he's obviously not gonna try that if he doesn't think he can beat them. Tamari and Kankuro are neutral. Shino is neutral. Shikamaru is rather neutral. So you're gonna have all these fighters. And I'll say this too, Neji's kind of neutral too. He doesn't really have anybody he has beef with. Maybe he wants to you can maybe say Sasuke, Sasuke's somewhat of interest to him, but essentially, right? You're gonna have a side of the battlefield with Naruto, Sasuke, Neji, Lee, and Gaara, who all just want smoke with each other. And then you have Tamari, Kankuro, Dosu, Shino, and Shikamaru, who are just kind of okay, I guess we want to win, but who do we have problems with? You know what I mean? So there's a pretty big divergence. Do you want to add to this?
I feel like it's pretty interesting just to see the top 5 just all want beef with each other. Except Neji, I guess, but people want beef with Neji, so he's gonna get dragged into this.
Yeah.
And then I guess you could say maybe Lee could go for Tamari because Tamari bullied Tenten, but other than that, it's just gonna be those 5. Dosu is gonna want to fight Sasuke. He's gonna see Sasuke fighting Gaara, and then he's just gonna turn around nope.
Nah.
I'm just gonna wait.
Dosu's definitely a wild card in this situation. We'll talk about this more, but essentially we kind of have a group A and group B scenario here, and the groups can intersect too, and we'll talk about this because obviously they're in a finite space. But with that being said, we'll kind of get into the discussion itself now. So starting off, we have group A, and we have a couple different scenarios for each group. For group A, and we'll label this as scenario A, we have pretty much Lee and Neji going at it first. They see each other and they dash at each other first. I think this is pretty one of the most primary or consistent scenarios, just because Lee, even though he wanted to fight a bunch of people, Neji is the person he wanted to fight most. He literally talks about Neji's the one he wants to beat. Even that the whole development of the gates was specifically to beat Neji. Lee notes this. Guy also supplements this, the gate specifically being a move Lee wanted to use to beat Neji. So we see this being a fight kind of happens in scenario A. What's your take on Lee versus Neji? Talk to me.
So we see in flashbacks that Neji can kind of beat up Lee, But the thing is, we don't know when those flashbacks take place. Like, they could be months ago, and Lee could be a whole different animal now.
Yeah.
But overall, it's still implied that Lee needs to use the gates in order to defeat Neji. And if he uses the gates, then I'm pretty sure he wins, because, like, Neji just doesn't have the speed or the defenses to just block or dodge 5th Gate Lee. So I do feel like Lee is gonna win this one, but the thing is, after using the gates, Lee would be exhausted because he has to use the gates to beat Neji, in my opinion. Like, he can't do it while just in base. So, like, maybe if he just uses, like, the first, second, third, you know, maybe he could still stand up after that and fight. But it's pretty much implied that he needs, like, the 4th, the 5th to, like, defeat Neji.
Yeah.
And if he does, then he's just gonna be out of the battlefield at that point. So, no matter how this fight goes, it's gonna end pretty much in a draw because both of them are gonna be down.
Exactly, yeah. Unless you argue like Neji is like blocking the Tenketsu for Lee doesn't really have that much. Like maybe you could argue because like he does need to use some of his chakra to actually like initiate the gates, but it just doesn't really like work. Neji's Wing Conjure isn't that effective against Lee. And I'll say this, right? So you kind of have like Lee versus Neji on one side. By the way, Lee's gonna just destroy the battlefield. That kind of leaves like Naruto and Sasuke, right? And we were kind of talking about this, but we could definitely, because no, and there's an element to this to where like, you know, you're kind of skewing the timeline a little bit for the video, but Naruto is very fearful of Gaara's ideology throughout part 1. There's been multiple times where he's exposed to Gaara and he's like, this guy is different. Like, and his ideology is very intimidating to Naruto. And even in the match with Sasuke versus Gaara, Naruto straight up wanted to see it. So even though Gaara wants to like smoke Sasuke, there's a situation where like we could see Sasuke and Naruto actually teaming up against Gaara, because you know it's a little different for a lot of other teammates, but like these two in particular are a lot closer than a lot of other teams. So it's like we definitely see a 2v1 scenario. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I believe Naruto, despite his fear of Gaara, like he would want to help Sasuke out, because like he would straight up fear for Sasuke's life. He wanted to end the match between them.
Yeah.
So like in canon, it's actually kind of wild. He was very terrified of Gaara. So he would see Sasuke coming at Gaara and he would probably just like go help him out because like he doesn't want his friend to die.
Yeah.
It would be like Haku all over again. Except, you know, Sasuke is probably not gonna die here. Or like fake out die. But if Sasuke and Naruto both jump Gaara, like Naruto with the QB Chakra Amp and Sasuke with like the Sharingan and Chidori like going at it, then I feel like Gaara is gonna get pretty much clapped up. Like it's gonna be a Momoshiki situation where they just jump him from both sides, just pound him. And it's not gonna end well for Gaara in that specific scenario, because like Naruto is on par with Neji, who's on par or superior to base Lee, who can already outspeed Gaara's defenses. Sasuke, we saw how he can do Gaara, and you know, Chidori is gonna be a very devastating attack for Gaara. Naruto can counter rotation, which can counter Lee. Well, like not the gated Lee, but you know, it can counter like base Lee probably. So like they can both definitely get through Gaara's sand armor. Sasuke more so than Naruto. So the fight would just not go well for Gaara.
I could definitely see a situation where like Gaara would be pressed to this degree, kind of similar to the canon timeline with Sasuke just weaving around, like hitting Gaara with those heavy ass punches. And Gaara goes into the sandball, but in which case nothing really changes because Sasuke can still do Chidori. The only reason I could maybe see like Sasuke not being able to do Chidori is if you argue like, okay, because it has a little bit of wind up and Lee and Neji are fighting at the same time. It'd be like maybe like he tries to climb on the wall and like Lee's like bouncing all over the place and like breaking the wall. Sasuke's trying to charge up Chidori. Like I can see a situation where that could be really funny. But you know, it also does help that Lee and Neji are forced to like their arsenals are more like 1v1 suited, whereas like Naruto, even if like someone's trying to interfere, he can't send clones back. You might argue like Naruto might not be able to tap into the QB's chakra here. While I don't even think that matters for this matchup, and yeah, he did get his chakra points blocked, which did enable, it kind of reminded him of that time in training. The whole point of that training was to kind of make him aware of that chakra and kind of like put himself in positions to where he can utilize it. So it should be it pretty much is a common part of his arsenal. Like Naruto has gone through the training. You see this as if he wants Kurama to come out, he can kind of let it seep out now. Like he can kind of force himself. Maybe he could just simply expend all his chakra to just use Kurama's as well. So he could literally just throw clones at Gaara for the sake of losing all his chakra to bring Kurama's out. So You know, Sasuke on his own would just kind of like do the same 1v1 with Gaara, but then you kind of have Naruto just like kind of helping out and stuff like that, and kind of leaves like, again, like Lee versus Neji. We don't think that ends in like either fighter walking out. Like we think like Lee takes it more often than not. And if Lee beats Neji with the 5th gate, he doesn't walk out with like even after. You know what I mean? He's just gonna be like crawling on the floor.
So what's gonna end up happening is Sasuke versus Naruto at the end of scenario A. And you know, Naruto is strong, but I feel like Sasuke being called like the strongest Genin in the Leaf in some of the data books, I mean, that's pretty blatant. And then as well, you have like Sasuke straight out of a coma, like fighting Naruto on the rooftop. Naruto has had a bunch of training at this point, and they still like Sasuke pretty much does Naruto pretty dirty. Like he fire styles all of his shadow clones. He's able to react to him and like box him up. But you can argue that Sasuke's like hatred amped because in his mind he just got Tsukuyomi'd by Itachi. So you could say Itachi's like fresh in his mind. He might be like kind of amped. But it's still pretty crazy. Like, he's straight out of a coma, and he's still boxing up a stronger Naruto. So I feel like that matchup is pretty blatant. Sasuke just probably takes it more times than not.
I'll add to this, because I know, you know, this gets into the whole, like, Sasuke versus Neji thing. And I don't want to make the video about that, because there's, like, a lot of people, a lot of different opinions on this. But I'll kind of put it like this. You know, base to base, you know, Sasuke should be faster. With the QB Chakra, Naruto should be faster than base Sasuke. With Sasuke's Sharingan, he's just reacted to a semi-transformed Gaara who has 2 speed increases, which kind of makes it difficult to specifically ascertain how, like, where he is in terms of, like, the pecking order. There's also, like, the crazy 1,000 shadow clones Naruto does in the Forest of Death. I've said this 40 times, but I'm gonna say it 40 again. That whole amp was from a desire to protect Sasuke and Sakura. And like it's specifically noted in the series, like that it was like it was pretty much a strength increase from the desire to protect Sasuke. Now, I was actually we were talking about this. If Sasuke actually gets taken down in this matchup, or like someone like is threatening to kill him, we could also see a situation where that amp could potentially be invoked by Naruto against somebody else. In which case, this entire roster gets folded against those 1,000 shadow clones. I'm not gonna lie to you. Well, unironically. So
like 100 for each member of the gang.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So, you know, that kind of does get into it. But the bottom line is that Chidori, which is like a verbatim speed increase. It also, and again, Sasuke should only need to do 1 to really like incapacitate Gaara. Should be above what Naruto has. And again, Lee versus Neji. Whether you argue Lee wins or not, Neji's gonna come out way more fatigued than Naruto and Sasuke, in my opinion, to the point that I don't think he'd be able to bring it back or win any 1v1. So that's kind of like scenario A. We kind of see Naruto, we kind of see Sasuke coming out if it goes down that route. For scenario A, for Group B, right, we have a couple different matchups as well. So starting off, this one's really weird because nobody here really has beef with each other. So this is a weird one. We could definitely see a situation to where Shikamaru and Shino pretty much take on the Sand duo. We pretty much see Dosu's probably the least likely to start up against an opponent at this point. He's probably just gonna wait back and let these two fight. In which case, kind of have a Leaf versus Sand situation. For the sake of discussion, we'll just say Shikamaru versus Kankuro, which is an interesting topic. What's your opinion on this?
So Shikamaru versus Kankuro is probably one of the weirder matchups because Kankuro is generally a lot stronger than Shikamaru. But Shikamaru, if he uses like diversions and like the chaos of the battlefield, like he could definitely catch Kankuro with like some strategies. Because the thing as well is, do the chakra strings give off any shadow at all? Because like, if they do, then Shikamaru is just busted. He can just shadow possession Crow and then like, by extension, shadow possession Kankuro. But other than that, like, Kankuro has a lot of hidden weapons and a lot of ways to attack Shikamaru. He could poison him and just injure him with kunai and stuff. So, Shikamaru is definitely gonna have his hands full. But again, like, the chaos of the battlefield just going on around them is probably going to be enough for Shikamaru to be able to get an opening to Shadow Possession Kankuro. And if that happens, and, like, Tamari doesn't come help out Kankuro or something, then that's pretty much it, because like Shikamaru can hold like 10 Chunin while exhausted, and he holds them for quite an extended period of time, at least in the anime. So it's just gonna go most likely in Shikamaru's favor, like high diff.
I could also see a situation to where Kankuro just starts littering the battlefield with poison with Crow, or like starts shooting smoke bombs. If he also, so we were kind of discussing this, like, okay, why wouldn't well, let's talk about Tamari and Kankuro. Why aren't they going to help Gaara? They just like their like relationship with Gaara is just like, he's like, get out of my way, and they're like, yes sir, like, yes daddy.
Yeah, so they're terrified of him.
They're terrified of him. So I can't even see a situation to where necessarily there would be crazy incentive for them to come help him. I mean, they help him after he loses to Naruto, but in terms of like a fight that he's having, it just seems more of like a death sentence for them to come having. But like in this side of the battlefield, like I could actually see some sick combo moves by Kankuro and Tamari. So for example, right, like I could see Kankuro shoot a bunch of poison gas, and Tamara use her wind side jutsu to blow it towards like the leaf shinobi, or like the rest of the battlefield. Like I could actually see some sick combo moves on their part, which could actually give them a dub. Because again, that same poison was actually afflicting Shino, so nobody on this side would really have any sort of resistance to it. So I could see that. But you know, Shikamaru also, like, listen, if Kishimoto wrote like Shikamaru beating Tamari, I feel like he could also write him, especially in this situation, beating Kankuro. Obviously, that's a very, like, whack answer. But I'm just saying, like, I think Shikamaru, Kankuro, and Tamari are pretty relative to one another. So I don't think it's outlandish.
It's sort of 50-50, because I feel like Shikamaru could pull out a W if Tamari doesn't come help Kankuro.
Yeah.
Like, if there's no combos, then I'm leaning towards Shikamaru. But if there's combos, then Tamari and Kankuro.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. And I'll add to this, if you have Shino take on Tamari at this point, so this is a weird one, because honestly, in my opinion, Tamari is very similar to Kankuro, which really just works in Shino's favor, right? Because pretty much what he does against Kankuro is he plays a range game, gets hit by some kunai, has a bug clone, which he uses to get in close on Tamari. I mean, listen, there's so much battlefield, there's so much chaos on his battlefield that I definitely think he could make some maneuvers happen. He hits Kankuro with the pump fake, weaves him, puts a queen bee on him. So at any point, what was I saying? At any point in this fight, if Shino actually does get the queen on Tamari, then that is the end of the matchup, because the rest of the bugs are gonna go on Tamari. And they don't necessarily like have to attack her linearly. Like even in the Zaku fight, they just appeared behind him. Like they are very loose. Like they can just all scatter throughout the ground and then reappear at Tamari's feet. And if she's not gonna notice shadow possession, I feel like saying she would notice the bugs is just it's just not going to be the case, especially since Sasuke with his Sharingan is also not really taking note of that. So I think when you kind of look at that, Shino has a pretty good chance against Tamari, especially since all she's really going to be able to do is like block large scale attacks. And Shino's not the type of fighter who's just going to throw like large swarms of bugs at her. Nah, he's going to take his time and benefit from the chaos. Do you want to add to this?
Yeah, Tamari is definitely one of the more troubling opponents for Shino, because of that area denial that she has, like wide-scale jutsu and stuff like that. But, like, is she gonna notice, like, one or two queen bugs just, like, flying off into the air somewhere, or, like, to the side and just, like, circling around the battlefield to get to her? Like, then Shino could probably send bugs through the ground, through the air, like, one by one, just slowly, just get them onto her, and then he could drain her chakra probably while he hides away somewhere behind the trees. So I feel like the matchup definitely goes in Shino's favor, but Tamari could definitely stall for quite a while against Shino, I feel. Like that matchup is long enough for maybe somebody else to come and interrupt it at some point. But overall, yeah, Shino probably takes this. Another thing with Shino too, like, I don't know if we want to talk about this here or not, or like later, but like Shino could do like a strategy where he just gets like a few bugs on everybody on the battlefield except like Neji.
We'll talk about this here, because Shino's bro. Shino's a monster, bro. I'm a Shino tard. I'm not gonna lie, but Shino, bro, here's the thing, he could do what he did. If he's able to, if he does have multiple queens on him, or by another interpretation is like he could have like multiple beetles with like the female scent on everybody, making it so he knows where everybody is on the battlefield. He can locate them, or if he has multiple females, he can place them on everybody in the battlefield while they're fighting other people, and then just systematically start taking them down as they're fighting and fatiguing themselves. It's so crazy, but I could really see it happen. It just kind of depends on like how much he's really pressed by his own battlefield, and like what the state of everybody else is. Because I'll say this, if any of the other fighters on the other battlefield, I will say, are like semi-healthy, I think they have a pretty fair shot against Shino. But like, if he can catch, if they're lacking, he could actually just have his insects like eat their chakra, just like reduce them to 0. So it just makes for like a crazy situation on Shino's part, because he can really like spread himself to every corner of the battlefield while not really having to exert himself at all. Like, he can just kind of chill back. He has a layer of defense, so any stray attacks that come his way just aren't an issue. Add to this, bro.
Yeah, and this is a crazy strategy, and honestly, the only people who might be immune are, like, Gaara, because the sand is automatically defending him, so, like, if the sand armor, like, spots a bug, it might just crush it.
Or, like, the sand armor on him, like, falls off, like, on his skin and stuff like that. Yeah, continue. I just want to add that.
Yeah. And then Neji can probably see, like, little chakra dots with the Byakugan, like, where the bugs are, because the bugs do have chakra. Sasuke might be able to see it with the Sharingan, but he would have to get lucky. Like, if there's a bug on his back, then there's no way he sees it. But if it's, like, on his arm, like, he might see it in the middle of the battle at some point. But other than those three, Shino just can sort of drain everybody slowly. Like,
he could just...
This is pure headcanon.
It's so crazy.
But, like, in theory, like, what if he can, like, steal chakra from other people via the bugs and then just inject it into himself?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
You steal some QB chakra from Naruto and go Super Saiyan.
It's crazy. So he can gradually fatigue most people on the battlefield, which is pretty absurd. So Shino's definitely, he's definitely got a lot going for him in this encounter. And then we kind of have, like, from this side of the battlefield, right? Because we kind of have, like, okay, we think Shino takes on Temari. Kankuro versus Shikamaru could go either way. Kind of depends how Temari handles that. Dosu's a bit of a wild card. Now, I could maybe see, like, Dosu trying to get some get back for Zaku. Not that the Sound Ninja really care about one another, but just on some, like, oh, I'll avenge you, my cohort. If Dosu were to take on... we can talk about who if Dosu takes on somebody here. If Dosu were to take on Shino, I think Dosu gets absolutely obliterated. I'm not going to lie, for a couple reasons. A, right? He has to get in close, which is already starting at a disadvantage. You could make a pretty strong argument that just like Zaku, you know, the open portions on his palm, like pretty much Dosu's win con, which is like his gauntlet, his sound gauntlet. You can make the case like Shino could clog it with bugs, just like Shino has clogged up Crow and pretty much made it that it couldn't move, and, you know, just like Zaku, which kind of makes it that Dosu's only real offensive option isn't really there, or like the main way, because he can still do it without the gauntlet. He just makes himself, he just is able to make the opponent a little dizzy, lightheaded. But the main way, like, he really takes them down is when he like pours chakra through their ear and stuff like that. And you can even take this a step further and argue, like, okay, if Shino, because Shino's like the bugs inside and outside his body, like, would the bugs, like, low-key, because he knows like Dosu's attacks are sound-based, would they just be, could he put them in his ear as like eardrums to kind of like mitigate Dosu's attack? You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy. It's pretty freaking absurd.
Although at the same time, like, Choji did try to clog his ears by like shoving his head into his like body, and it didn't work because like the human body is made of water, and like water
he got,
able to like transmit sound.
Yeah,
but like it's still like the earplugs are at least like a somewhat preventative measure. So I feel like if Dosu gets the jump on Shino, he could definitely take him out. But if it's just straight up a 1v1, I don't see Shino really letting Dosu get too close to him. Like, what I see happening is like Dosu's gonna attack Shino. Shino's gonna turn into bugs, just like a bug clone.
Yeah.
And then the bugs are gonna swarm Dosu and like take him out. But it could go a few ways. Like I said, like Dosu either just wins off rip, or it's a 1v1 and Shino wins. I feel like that's the case.
I think Dosu in character is gonna jump one of these dudes, like Shikamaru or Shino, when they're, or like Kankuro when they're sure of victory. I think that's probably like, it's more in character for him to just kind of jump in and be like, well, bah, like, get on him. So that's kind of interesting.
You know how like, you know how like Madara says like Tobirama, it's your MO to jump your opponent when they're sure of victory. Like, that's Dosu.
Yeah. But I think, you know, and then we kind of saw like Shino versus Kankuro and stuff like that. So when you kind of have like Shino versus, like, when you kind of have Shino, Dosu, Kankuro, and Shikamaru kind of left on the battlefield, we more often than not see Shino like walking away as like kind of the victor of this subsection, just due to how like 1v1 it's pretty undisputable. He could take down everybody here. Kankuro being more so one of the stronger people. Dosu's kind of reliant on surprise attacks, but you know, there is a chance that Shino could also not make it past it. Shikamaru's just as possible, but the problem with Shikamaru is that like he does get fatigued from fighting prolonged period of time. So it's like, I think if he did take down like Kankuro or Temari, it would just be a high diff situation, just like the Chunin exams where he's like, all right, I'm almost out of chakra.
Yeah.
So I couldn't necessarily see that going down that side of it. We can maybe talk about, we'll talk about Dosu for Shikamaru a little bit later, but generally, you know, we see Shino just making it past this area. He just kind of counters a lot of people. You could potentially see Dosu making it past as well, but it also kind of does depend who Dosu goes for at first. Like, if he goes for Shikamaru first, takes him out, and Shino becomes aware of his presence, that's it. In our opinion, like, the fight ends. But if he does go after Shino first and, like, does catch him off guard, again, there is that kind of potential. Okay, he does that, and maybe he has a fight with Kankuro or Shikamaru, respectively.
Yeah. Dosu also has a pretty bad matchup against Kankuro or Tamari if it's just like straight up 1v1 if he doesn't jump them.
Yeah.
Because they're both long range fighters, they can both keep him away from themselves, and Dosu is close range, like he needs to get close for his jutsu to work. So like, really it just depends on who's the last one standing. I feel like Dosu's gonna wait until there's like 2 people or something and they're still fighting each other, like preoccupied and both exhausted. And then Dosu's gonna jump one of them and then try to take on the other while they're fatigued. So like, in my opinion, it's either Shino or Dosu, because like, Shino's the most well-rounded of them all, like here, because he's got the intelligence, he's got the defenses, the attack potency, and like stuff like that. Well, not attack potency, but you know, like the chakra drain from the bug, like he can take everyone down. But Dosu is like the one that's gonna jump him later, or like someone else, and then like it depends on who Dosu jumps, honestly. But yeah, I can say either Shino or Dosu, but most likely Shino. Just like he's the most well-rounded here, I feel.
So you kind of have like the winners from Group A being like, we were kind of talking about this. We think Sasuke walks away in this initial encounter just because like he is a hard counter for Gaara. If we give you Gaara like transforms into Shikaku, then I mean like, okay, that's kind of it, unless like Naruto goes through that like insane resolve amp to save Sasuke, in which case he does the 1,000 shadow clones. But again, like that just comes like, that's such a hyper specific feat that like there was a lot of outliers and specifics for it to occur. The only time you ever see it is like when Naruto saves Iruka. So I you know, if you want to use that, by all means. But generally, you know, we see Sasuke like walking away from Group A. Then you kind of have like Sasuke versus Shino after all said and done. It does depend. I will say if Sasuke used 1 or 2 Chidori, because if he does have to use 2, then if he uses the curse mark against, well, listen, 1 Chidori is going to be enough for Shino. I'm not going to lie to you. Even if Sasuke, like the bugs were on him, Sasuke is just going to be moving too fast for the bugs to catch him or remain on him. Like he would just blow through it. Like we see like QB Naruto just blow through bugs. Just because like there's that speed and power difference. So I definitely think it'd be a situation there. And then again, like Shino has some durability, but it's not on the same level to where he's just going to be tanking Chidori.
Yeah, honestly, like Sasuke's blows in general could probably do it, because like Sasuke is like physically one of the strongest people there, even above like Lee, because he can just straight up block punches or swipes from transformed Gaara with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And just get up afterwards. It's actually pretty crazy, and he's able to crack Gaara's sand armor with his punches. So yeah, he's definitely knocking Shino out in a few blows, man.
Yeah. And listen, this is like we're up the presupposition that transformed Gaara would be above the likes of QB Naruto and Neji. If you don't agree with that, then, you know, maybe you could throw this sentiment out. That's just what we're going with for the video. So just to also throw that out. If you disagree, you know, by all means. But hey, so we gonna see like Sasuke. This is like a high diff scenario. We kind of see like Sasuke / Shino coming out of the like Group A, or like scenario A with like Sasuke being the winner. The problem is there's multiple scenarios this way it goes. So now we're gonna get it. So now, by the way, we're in scenario B. You thought the video was done. No. We're going to scenario B. Scenario B is Naruto fights Neji off rip, Sasuke fights Gaara off rip, and Lee, so we were talking about this, Lee doesn't really have anybody to fight in this situation, in which case at least I saw, I think Say3 agrees, like he goes to fight Tamari to kind of get some get back for Tenten, since like Tamari, like, I was gonna basically like, there's no way to say this, but like broke her back out.
You what?
But don't twist that. Don't twist my words. But essentially, you know, and then threw her and like he was talking.
Someone's gonna clip that. Someone's gonna clip that.
So he basically wants some get back for that. And I will say, I think Lee as a fighter would respect the ones that are going on, because Lee, like, even in the fight with Kimimaro, is like, listen, I gotta take my medicine. Can we, like, let's just time out. Pause.
Yeah, Lee's like a gentleman fighter. Like, he's gonna see Naruto started fighting Neji, and he's gonna be like, oh, man, like, I can't interrupt that. Like, they're fighting. Okay, let me just go fight someone else. And he might jump in again for Sasuke versus Gaara, but I feel like he's gonna respect them too. Like, I feel like he would probably go fight Tamari. In which case, Tamari did block a kick from weighted Lee. Don't know what she's gonna do against like weightless Lee when he can just blitz Gaara's sand. Like,
yeah, it's gonna be really bad for Tamari, and it's like you actually have a situation where like gated Lee might not even be needed. And the reason
it's not needed against Tamari at all.
And this is supplemented by the fact that base Sasuke absolutely slaughters Tamari in the anime. Like he's like, do I just like risk like so the manga doesn't show this, but in the anime he actually has a fight with Tamari in the forest, and he's like, do I even risk Chidori against her? And then he just doesn't need it. He just like outplays her with like a substitution firebomb fire style. So you kind of have like this idea that this speed is just above Tamari, but and like if Lee's that fast, like he's just gonna dash across before like she can even initiate the wind style. So Lee like would actually be coming in like still relatively fresh in this situation. Whereas listen, Naruto versus Neji and Sasuke versus Gaara, those are kind of gonna go the same ways again. It's unfortunate that this is kind of like the way like those matchups are panning out, because they're just like these are just the people these individuals have beef with. Like I want to say like Neji could fight Gaara, but they don't care about one another. They have no issues with those dudes. So those two will go to fight one another, and I think those matchups happen literally the same way. Maybe you could argue like Neji might be able to pull off a dub again, since like maybe Naruto might not be, there might not be that like discussion of like controlling your own destiny and whatnot. But I will say for those who are like put off by that, don't worry, we got you in scenario C. So those fight can go up the we got scenario C's gas. We'll talk about scenario C in a second.
Scenario C is hilarious.
It's adds heat, bro. But essentially you have that, right? So you have like Lee, we see Lee could go on to take on Tamari. She's just gonna kind of get dominated. He doesn't really need to initiate the gates. Shino versus Kankuro we saw. We also saw Tamari versus Shikamaru. So we don't necessarily think those are worth talking about in this video. We can maybe see. Do you want to answer that real quick? Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just like thinking like the most likely scenario is like Lee is gonna just like destroy Tamari in like a hit or two, or like 3 max. And then he would just like turn, see that Naruto and Neji and Sasuke versus Gaara is still going on, and then just go after the others from Group B. And then like Shino is cool, and like I like him, but I don't know what he's gonna do about Lee's speed, because like Shino's got speed scaling, but not that kind of speed scaling. Like, Lee just sort of blitzes around everybody there. And like even while weighted, he can like primary Lotus Dosu, so Dosu's not gonna be a problem. And then like I don't know what Shikamaru is supposed to do. Like he's not catching Lee with like the shadow possession, like no matter what strategy he comes up with. Honestly, Lee might even be able to like break out of it with the gates, like if he's able to initiate them, even if he gets caught. So like I feel like Lee just sort of wipes the lower tier, like no problem in this scenario.
I'll say this, for the sake of discussion, I could see an because Lee's definitely gonna clean house in this side. I could see a situation to where maybe Kankuro sees Tamari's getting absolutely bodied by Lee, and then you kind of have Kankuro versus Lee. But again, right, like, is Crow really gonna like mess Lee? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is Crow really to like gated Lee again? And so
not even gated, like just weightless. Is enough,
maybe the best argument is that he potentially like clouds the area and poison, making it so Lee gets poisoned, which would determine this fight. That's probably one of the better win cons in my opinion. You could also potentially see Shikamaru versus Dosu. Maybe Shikamaru wants some get back for what happened earlier in the Forest of Death. I think that's a pretty interesting matchup. What's your opinion on Shikamaru versus Dosu?
I feel like Dosu is definitely like, he's seen the Shadow Possession Jutsu. He probably wouldn't get caught by it, like by strategies from Shikamaru, because Dosu's intelligent as well. Like, this would be a battle of brains more so than bronze. But, like, I don't really see what Dosu would do. Like, it's kind of a stalemate on both ends, because Shikamaru wouldn't really try to initiate attacks on Dosu, I feel. Because he would be wary of getting attacked from behind or, like, getting outplayed by Dosu. Like, yeah, he's seen, like, he would just be wary about not getting Dosu, like, close to him. And Dosu couldn't really attack because if he just runs in, like, he's just gonna get Shadow Possession point blank range. So, like, do they just stand and stare at each other? Like,
Yeah, it's
low
interesting.
key.
It's interesting because when you were describing Dosu, I think it's very akin to Tamari too, because Tamari's pretty intelligent. I don't know if, like, how you would scale her to Dosu or like argue that. I think they're, maybe you could say it's relative, but these fighters do have somewhat prep. I will say too, though, I will add to this with this matchup, like, and these fighters going against each other. I think Shikamaru will have far less to work with the environment, because Lee's not going to be destroying the area with his fifth gate, which I think is going to make it a bit harder for Shikamaru to employ some strategies. Because against Tamari, he used the hole that Naruto made in the ground, which is like, okay, would he have won that fight if he didn't have the hole? Maybe. It's kind of hard to say. Like, he probably, like, he does know he was like 200 moves ahead, so maybe, maybe he probably had something in the back of his mind, honestly. But I will say that will make it a bit harder. But I think I personally lean towards Shikamaru in this encounter, since he'll probably just, like, I think Dosu should be comparable to Tamari in speed, since both have pretty good feats against gated Lee, at least in terms of taijutsu. Yeah, I think that's.
You mean weighted?
Oh, weighted. Right? Why'd I say who gated? No, weighted.
Fifth gate Dosu
against weighted Lee. So you gotta have an interesting scenario. But more often than not, we just kind of see Lee kind of cleaning house in this situation. Okay, like, what if Naruto finishes up with Neji, Sasuke like forces Gaara in the sand ball and is charging Chidori? What does Lee do? It's kind of a weird situation, because, like, we don't know who Lee would want to fight first. I might argue he might try and fight Sasuke first. I think that could be kind of interesting. Just because, like, Sasuke, he probably has more personal beef with, just due to the whole, like, nature versus nurture, talent versus hard work discussion.
Yeah.
But he does see, like, Naruto as a worthy adversary. It kind of gets into Lee versus Sasuke. I'll put it like this. I could see, I'm not gonna lie, I could see a situation in which Lee powers up to the fifth gate against Sasuke, because he kind of needs it, because base to base they're going to be throwing hands, or Sasuke's just going to blatantly be superior because he has Sharingan. Lee's going to need the gates, which is going to give Sasuke time to charge Chidori. Naruto's going to be chilling. I see a situation where he respects the ones. In that type of situation, I think Chidori would be superior to the fifth gate in terms of speed. What's your opinion on that?
So there's surprisingly, like, a pretty direct way to actually scale this, which is going off of Kakashi and Guy, because, like, in base, they're pretty relative to each other, like eternal rivals and stuff like that.
Yep.
And we don't really know if it's Sharingan Kakashi or just base Kakashi that's relative to base Guy. I would say probably Sharingan Kakashi. And then with Chidori or Raikiri, because it's basically the same thing, like, with Raikiri, Kakashi is just able to tango with 6th gate Guy in the war, and they're, like, fighting back to back, like, relative to each other. So, like, you get this feeling like Chidori is basically like a 6th gate speed amp almost, and Lee can only go up to the 5th, and Sasuke also is relative to Lee in base without the Sharingan in terms of taijutsu. He has less stamina, but he's, like, in speed, he's relative without the Sharingan. So with the Sharingan and with the Chidori, like, I'm pretty sure he would come out on top. But the thing is, Lee would be completely fresh here, while Sasuke would not be, because he would have to use Chidori on Gaara at some point. Yeah. So it's like Sasuke with a bigger amp than Lee, but, like, fatigued. So, like, I feel like it would be pretty close. I feel like we could also get Naruto versus Sasuke versus Lee if Naruto and Sasuke finish their fights around the same time.
Yeah.
In which case, I see Naruto probably going down first to either the gates or Chidori. But at the same time, if the gates and Chidori clash and Naruto is just on the side, then Naruto probably comes out on top, because Lee and Sasuke could just, like, fatigue each other.
I'll add to this.
It's a weird scenario.
Yeah, I want to add to this. Like, fundamentally, Chidori, like, that type of clash favors Sasuke more, and Lee gives this explanation, right? Because Lee's movements in the 5th gate are so linear, because, like, and you see this when he's, like, bouncing around. He's bouncing around in, like, a singular direction, and, like, his attacks, he notes that he can't use the type of attack like Chidori, because he pretty much leaves himself open to a counterattack. And this is, like, the same, he runs into this issue in the 5th gate, like, he's only able to do one punch. People don't know, like, the 5th gate's the single punch. The 4th gate's the bouncing around the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe if you argue, like, Lee's bouncing Sasuke off the walls, like, or something like that, or, like, they both dash each other, Sasuke is a lot more suited to take on counterattacks due to the Sharingan, whereas Lee is not going to be as suited. He's not going to be able to, like, make quick movements with his body to avoid attacks like Sasuke was with Gaara Sand. So in that type of encounter, even if you argued, in my opinion, their relative speeds, The problem is just, again, Sasuke just has that extra perception will just allow him to kind of counterattack Lee, whereas Lee can't really counterattack Sasuke in this case. So I personally favor Chidori Sasuke, like also looking at that line of reasoning. You kind of have to argue like Lee kind of combos him up first, in which case, sure. But again, you know.
I feel like the best case for Lee would be if he just goes into the gates right off the bat. And Sasuke does need to sort of charge Chidori a little bit. Like, he does need to wave a few hand signs and stuff like that. So, if Lee is able to, like, capitalize on that and, like, attack Sasuke while he's charging, then he could win. But I feel like Lee's not that type of fighter. Like, he's gonna want to see what Sasuke has up his sleeve.
Yeah.
And then another thing for the clash, the Chidori is more so like a piercing jutsu, whereas Lee's punches are more blunt.
Yeah.
And we know that, like, a piercing attack is definitely gonna, like, be more effective than a blunt attack in this case.
Especially if, like, they go, like, Chidori versus punch. It's just gonna shred through Lee's arm. Like, there's no question.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see that happening. Because, like, honestly, Guy would probably just, like, jump in, like, be like, no, just stop. Like, you're gonna, like, destroy each other.
Yeah.
If they just go, like, punch to Chidori.
Yeah. So it's pretty...
I feel like...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like if Sasuke and Lee fight one-on-one, then whoever wins... I'm leaning towards Sasuke, but, like, whoever wins is gonna get taken out by Naruto next. Because, you know, Naruto's gonna be a lot fresher. Whereas, if it's, like, a three-way between them... Don't clip that. If it's, like, a three-way battle... If it's, like, a three-way battle between them, then Naruto probably goes down first. Unless he gets knocked away at some point and then Sasuke and Lee clash with each other and Naruto's just on the side. But overall, probably like Sasuke comes out more often than not, but I could see Naruto coming out as well.
Yeah, especially since like if Naruto fights Neji, he's going to be in a prime opportunity to receive more of the QB's chakra. So I could definitely see a situation where like, okay, you have like QB Naruto against like fatigue like Lee and Sasuke, or if like Sasuke gets done beating Lee, he's gonna have used 2 Chidori by this point, so he'll just be too fatigued to really deal with that Naruto. Or he'll need to initiate the curse mark, which, by the way, if that doesn't work and he forces it, he loses the fight pretty much, or it's like a straight up draw. So I wouldn't even really count that for Sasuke. So that one, I think this one could definitely be sliced up to Naruto, but we'd almost like Naruto, Sasuke, and Lee kind of making it to like the final bracket of scenario B.
Also, like, one more thing to add, Lee probably, like, if he has the choice of fighting Naruto or Sasuke, I feel like he would choose Sasuke also because he would want Naruto to win more than he would want Sasuke to win.
Yeah.
Because Naruto's more of, like, a hard worker and stuff, and Sasuke's more of a talented person. So, like, if he has to choose, like, who wins in the end, he would probably choose Naruto, so he would go fight Sasuke to, like, test himself against Sasuke, against his talent, and like also to sort of fatigue him so Naruto can have a better fight later.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's something that Lee might think of. Like, maybe not, but I feel like that's something that if Lee thinks of, he would probably go fight Sasuke.
He has
instead of
more
Naruto.
reason to fight Sasuke than Naruto, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then you have scenario C, which is just that all of the Leaf Ninjas straight up jump Gaara. So this is fun. When I say guys, I'm meaning Group A because 3 out of 4 of these dudes do not like Gaara. Sasuke, Naruto, and Lee do, well, like at least Naruto and Sasuke, right? They already have reason enough to not want to fight Gaara and not like him. If you ignore the fact that Lee just doesn't fight him, or his like injuries got healed, I mean, if Gaara's talking crazy, like I'm gonna kill you all, I could see a situation where they just look at each other and they're like, oh nah. In which case, you're gonna get Sasuke, Lee, and Neji, all who are capable of weaving Gaara's sand, just beating the absolute bricks off of him with pure taijutsu, like Neji's Hyuga fist of 64 palms through Gaara's sand armor. Naruto is just going to be chilling in the back. Naruto out. He doesn't even have anything to do in this fight. So Gaara would get absolutely washed. This is definitely a situation where Gaara has to transform, or else he just straight up loses because he's just going to get jumped by people who are verbatim faster. He's also not going to have any opportunity to go into the sandball. And even if you argue, like, it's just there's no conceivable way Gaara really makes it out this, unless maybe you argue he does like a large scale sand tsunami. But, you know, we haven't really seen that type of ability from him. He only does that against Kimimaru. So I don't know if it's necessarily fair to give him that ability here. I won't, just because he also did need to make more sand in the ground to kind of do that. So I don't know if you would also have that ability here. And we didn't give Tamari her like Sound 4 fight stuff, nor did we give Kankuro. So I won't. And they're also said to be stronger in those fights. So I won't do that here. So Gaara kind of gets dismantled.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about this?
I mean, Gaara, we just know that when he has a clear head, he's a lot stronger. Because, like, when he loses Shikaku as well, he gets, like, a major power amp later on.
Yeah.
Because he can sleep better, he can think clearer. But even now, like, Gaara in the Chunin exams is, like, almost borderline insane mentally.
Bloodlusted.
Whereas he was a lot more calm and collected in the Kimimaro battle. So I feel like he just wouldn't go for any real strategies here. Like, he didn't do anything similar to the Sand Tsunami and Sasuke against Lee. Like, it just didn't come out at all.
Those two
and
fights...
the thing is, he wouldn't even have time. Like,
yeah.
in the time that he takes to make more sand, like, he would just get jumped. Like, it would be like fight back, Mahito getting jumped in Jujutsu Kaisen from all sides. That just, like, bullied around and just, like, absolutely decimated. Like, it's not even... It's actually hilarious. I was gonna say it's not funny, but it's hilarious.
No, I was gonna ask because I like the point you made. Like the difference in tactics Gaara does against Kibimaru and that what he does in like the Chunin exams is night and day. Like he's almost a completely different fighter. It just becomes so much more threatening because there's a lot more strategy. And, you know, Gaara can employ strategy. Like he can make sand clones and stuff like that. I'm not saying he's dumb, but like his bloodlust is obviously blinding him to a degree where he's just like thinking a lot more straightforward instead of like roundabout ways to win. If the Gaara's out the picture. Again, I could see some interesting ones going down. I could maybe see Sasuke versus Neji. Or maybe like Sasuke versus Lee and Naruto versus Neji. Or again, Naruto versus Sasuke and Neji versus Lee. I think that one's probably the most likely. I'm not going to lie to you because like rivals, you know. In which case...
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, in which case I would probably... I would say like Sasuke unless Naruto can unleash Kyuubi's chakra. Sasuke pretty much takes it comfortably against that Naruto. Unless, again, Naruto performs the crazy amp in the forest, in which case Sasuke gets blown away by 1,000 shadow clones. Lee versus Neji, we talked about that earlier in the video. Pretty much that's a draw, so Sasuke, again, would kind of come out on top of that scenario. Probably high diff. I can't really see him beating Naruto without Chidori, so again, he would be fatigued. And then the bottom bracket, not too much changes. Again, what we talked about, we could see a situation where, like, Shino and Shikamaru have like a 2v2 type of situation against the Sand Duo. In that type of encounter, I think they honestly just dismantle Tamari and Kankuro just due to how, like, on top of those two having a greater analytical sense than Kankuro and Tamari, in my opinion, I think the strategies they would be able to form are a lot better too. They would just be able to, you could also make some like notes, like they would just combine Shadow Possession. Like he's like, all right, I'm going to hold him down for 2 seconds while you get a bug on him. You do this. Whereas Kankuro and Tamari strategies, like they have some, like maybe Kankuro can like have like the Tamari's wind, like throw some of Crow's kunai towards, you know, the duo and stuff like that. But it's just not to the same degree, in my opinion, to what Shino and Shikamaru could come down. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just imagining like Shino just making little clouds of bugs to like cast shadows on the battlefield and extend the shadow possession of Shikamaru. Like that's a likely scenario, I feel. The biggest thing is gonna be like Tamari's wind combined with the poison cloud.
Yeah,
I feel like
agree.
that's like the big win con.
I'll say this. Depending on which group wins, I think the duo would have a pretty good chance. Or like, so let's say, you know, you go up the interpretation, Tamari and Kankuro win. I think they would actually stand a pretty decent chance against Sasuke at that point, who has been fatigued, due to how they're gonna stay a ranged game. And even if he does Shidori, which he can take them down individually, it's gonna be tough because only really be allotted like one. He could still fight after. So maybe you say like he takes one down with Chidori and does the other one out, you know, he'd like throw some fire style and whatnot. But I do think Kankuro and Tamari do stand a pretty decent chance. Again, they could stay back, poison him. It's gonna be kind of tough for Sasuke. He kind of has to close the distance with his speed. But if he can, I think with his physical blows, he would just absolutely destroy them, just like he was destroying Gaara. So
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting situation. Shino and Shikamaru, it's also a little different because we don't know how they would necessarily go. But again, I think that Sasuke would be able to take them down. There's also Dosu in this situation. I can see a situation maybe he tries to take on Sasuke after the whole Group A battle, in which, you know, it might be kind of tough for him because, like, base Sasuke would probably just rip Dosu a new one again. So I can't necessarily see Dosu pulling up a dub even against fatigued Sasuke. So in this situation, it's kind of a little weird for Group B because they're kind of just taking on the remnants of Group A. It just kind of depends on like how they kind of fight each other. So you know how that situation arises could be one of the interpretations we talked about. Yeah. I'll say this
gonna
too.
Get jumped.
If you give it Gaara like Shikaku transformation, he's blatantly gonna just wipe everybody on this battlefield. That's just a fact, because even Sasuke just like hitting him with Chidori's repeatedly just was not putting him down at all. And the problem is too, like, not only is Gaara durable at this point, he's just like, he has these speed increases. He's just gonna pretty much be causing havoc across the battlefield. And it doesn't help that his transformation is gonna be like going like farther and farther each time. And obviously it's like a presupposition. The only one who really stands a chance again is like Naruto if he gets that 1,000 Shao clones. And even then, right? Naruto used up every ounce of chakra and needed more to summon Gamabunta. You know, you kind of have like Naruto would require a ridiculous amp to even be close to that Gaara. So if you kind of go off like, you kind of have to be the problem with Gaara in this situation, he's like definitely one of like the top 3 to win. It's just that he always has someone gunning for him, or he always wants to fight. So he pretty much is gunning for Sasuke himself, which is just not a good matchup for him because the speed disparities there and Chidori. And the thing is too, like, maybe you could argue someone stops Sasuke from using Chidori, but once Chidori's active, it's just too fast for anybody on the battlefield to really stop that from happening. Maybe you could make a case if he's like in a situation where he's grabbed by Shikaku's arm in the sandball. It's one of the other fighters like Neji or Lee, if they want to be slick, or anybody else on the lower end could come up behind him and like tag him as he's like deterred there. That's a fair enough interpretation. It's just like, you know, the way that these types of videos and like the free-for-alls are structured, they could go like a nigh infinite amount of ways. So it's just like we try to introduce some structure. But I think that about covers it for the video. For top 3 we have, you know, general thoughts, you know, Sasuke and Shino are definitely among our breadwinners. Naruto's definitely up there as well, depending on a couple things. If you can get the QB chakra. I think Gaara, I would really want to give Gaara more. I'll put it like this. If Gaara fights anybody else but Sasuke, I think he could probably, he would definitely go to the finals. It's just that like in most situations, we see him and Sasuke going at it first. That's pretty much the problem. But if he doesn't fight like literally the one guy who has like, or maybe, you know, arguably Neji as well, Gaara just can go the distance.
Yeah. I feel like Gaara's main issue, like you said, is that he's just being gunned by like everybody. So he's just not gonna get far in the Group A scenario. Like, he's mostly gonna be out first in like most scenarios because he just wants to fight Sasuke. So like the top 3 in my opinion are like Naruto, Sasuke, and Shino, or maybe Naruto, Sasuke, and Lee. Because like Group A depends a little bit on like Naruto, Sasuke, Lee, like who gets for the farthest.
Yeah, it's definitely, I definitely agree. It's definitely interesting. And by the way, this isn't like who's the strongest in the Chunin exams, because that's a different conversation. We're not saying like Naruto wouldn't beat Gaara or anything like that, but it's just, you know, this is more so just like these types of matchups, this kind of going on in the battlefield. We see it going this way. But you could just as easily slice up this entire discussion and turn a bunch of different matchups as well with like your own rhetoric and own like what you think. So also take that. Let me know what you guys thought down below. I'm very excited to hear you guys' thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it was a longer one. Check out Safety down below. Highly recommend it. Thank you for coming on the video and talking about this. And I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.